Welcome to our faculty Q&A for the online Masters in Data Science here at the University of Notre Dame. I'm Roger Woodard. I'm the director of the program and a faculty member in Applied and Computational Math and Statistics. I have with me a couple of our other faculty, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So, Alan, do you want to go first?
Sure, thanks, Roger. My name is Alan Huebner. I'm also a faculty in the ACMS department. I teach courses in regression modeling as well as behavioral data science, and I enjoy collaborating with partners in educational psychology and sports performance science.
Chris?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I am Chris Frederick, and I also teach in the program and work in the ACMS department here in the College of Science. And I teach our programming for data science in both R and Python courses and our databases and data architecture course, as well as our capstone course that comes at the end of the program.
We also have with us Samantha Adamczewski, our associate director.
Hi, my name is Samantha. I work with all of our current students, our alums, and our corporate partners.
So today we're going to go through some basic questions that a lot of students have. And I know that you in the audience may have some questions. And I just wanted to point out that during our webinar, you'll see a Q&A button there on the Zoom window. If you have questions and want to ask us about those, please click on that button and put those in there rather than using the chat. The chat can get kind of lost as we're going through here, and the Q&A helps us keep track of everything. So I want to start off with a very common question that we get often is kind of just what's the overall structure. So if you're on this webinar, you probably already have a little bit of an idea as to how this program works. But the big broad strokes, it is a 21-month program designed for working professionals. It is a true Notre Dame master's degree, so it has the same rigor and requirements that any master's degree from Notre Dame has. So you have to have 30 credits in the program. It's fully online, so you can do this from basically anywhere in the world. It is a program that we developed in conjunction with our corporate partners, where we went to them and we asked them, what do you need graduates to know? What do you need individuals to know who are going to be working in data science? And we continue to go back to them to talk about how to update the program, because one thing about data science is that it's constantly evolving. And we have lots of new things, and we constantly revise and update our curriculum. One of the other questions that we get quite often, do I need to be a programming or math expert to apply to this program? And I think for that, maybe I'll turn it over to my colleagues. Chris, do you want to start off and talk about the programming side a little bit?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a very common question that I get, which is people coming into the program who might feel anxious about the amount of programming that you have to do to be a data scientist, which is substantial. A lot of what we do is going to be programming. So we really have to have a solid foundational understanding of how programs work so that we know what the code is that we're running, and we really understand how the algorithms work and can implement them and modify them to meet the needs. So the short answer to this is you really don't have to be a programming expert to get started. The way we've designed this program is that we're very intentional in making sure that the entire class has the same baseline understanding. We're going to be doing statistical programming, which isn't something that a lot of people have traditionally done. So even if you have programmed for a long time, you might find some new things to learn that you haven't really experienced or seen a lot of. And so I think you'll really find that this course is designed, and our entire program is designed to help you move from feeling maybe a little bit anxious about programming to feeling very, very confident. And I can see that happening in our students time and time again. We'll have someone come into the program, they might be feeling a little bit nervous or anxious about that, and we give them a lot of support. Each faculty member is going to be there to help you. So if you are someone who needs to meet, extra with one of us, we do that, right? We will meet with you outside of class. We will work with you. We will help you find the resources and time to make sure that you really do master that skill, especially for programming. And I know the same is going to be true for the math that's required here. So yes.
Yeah. And on the math side, I can just comment on that a little bit. We do teach you how data science and AI works. So if you want to learn how machine learning is is functioning, you have to understand a little bit of the calculus behind that. And that's one of the things that is a requirement for our program. We do want you to have some background in calculus. If you don't have background in calculus, that's not a problem. We actually have a refresher course that kind of builds you up in your calculus skills. And that's something that is, again, fully online, and it's available to students who want to really get that base level of mathematical background that they would need. Let's see, some other questions that we get quite often. How can the content in this program immediately be applied to my career? So this is a program designed for working professionals. That means people are doing these classes in addition to working on their day jobs. And one of the things that they often want to know is, when I actually go through this content and then go to work, am I going to be able to put this into action? So I don't know if either of my colleagues would like to maybe comment on that. Is that something that Chris, do you want to take a shot at that?
I mean, I would say right out of the gate, I hear this very often. One of the first things that we learned to do when we're starting to get into data is that we have to get the data ready for analysis. And oftentimes the data that we get is pretty bad shape, it's pretty dirty. And a lot of the techniques that we learn really in the first week, people are immediately saying, wow, I wish I had known this. I spent so much time trying to do this, and now I can see how this can be applied. So from day one, you really are going to be getting material and instruction that helps you solve problems that you're most likely already facing in your day job. So because we are industry informed, we try to lean into that as much as we can and make sure that all the skills and techniques that we teach, it's very clear how they can be taken back into industry and used really to make your career a success. So.
Yeah, and it's something that I often hear from the students as well, is that the things that we're teaching them, they're actually using those on a daily basis. So I teach the Introduction to Machine Learning course, and I have students who are building machine learning models at work and doing the kinds of things that we talk about in class at work. And it's stuff that is really useful for them to go in and say, oh, I really hadn't thought about this aspect of the things we're doing at work, but now that we're talking about it here in class, it really helps to enlighten me on that.
Yeah. I have one more thing to add to that really quick, which I think is interesting. At various points throughout the program, you'll actually sort of develop these guides that you can actually take with you back to your workplace. And so those like checklists, almost like an ethical framework checklist, like how do you run a data science project and make sure that it's meeting the ethical standards that your company holds and that you're aligned well. So those kinds of things are in here as well. Thank you.
Another question we often get as faculty, people want to know what's the favorite thing that we have about teaching in this program. So Alan, maybe do you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, thanks. I really love teaching the program, but a real high point for me is working with student groups on the capstone project. And the capstone occurs in the last semester in the program. So the class 2025 is doing their capstone projects right now. And each group of approximately 5 students gets paired with an outside, an external client, oftentimes a business or a local government or nonprofit. And the students work on a large data science project over the course of several weeks or a couple months. And it's really an opportunity for them to show their knowledge, everything they've learned in the program up to that point, as well as learning new practical skills that were not covered in the program, because of course one program can't cover everything out there. So it's a chance to really work in detail with students, and of course I get to know everybody during the course of teaching the classes. But the capstone really allows you to work with it allows students to work with the faculty almost like colleagues. on a big project with the common goal of doing a really, really cool analysis for a real client.
Yeah, and I'm just going to echo that because the capstone is one of my favorite uh, things about this program as well. One, because everybody has data, and there are so many different applications of the type of techniques that we have and that we teach. And when we get into the capstone, we get into new problems where we don't know the answers. In a typical classroom kind of setting, we give students an assignment. We kind of know what that assignment's going to ask them to do. But in a capstone, it's new, it's different, it's things that are exciting, and the answers haven't been written yet. And our students get to write those and find out really what's going on in that data. And that's something that is really exciting and new because you get that sense of exploration. It also is a great chance for students to really see kind of the range of different ways in which you can apply data science and the different environments. As Alan said, we have everything from Fortune 500 companies that have dozens or even more data scientists working with our students, all the way down to small nonprofits that really you have one person who kind of has some idea about the data, but they're not a data scientist. And understanding how data science is applied in all those different settings is really a great experience with that. Chris, what about you? What's your favorite part of this?
The capstone is phenomenal. It's definitely one of my highlights. I'm actually going to go with, I think my favorite thing about teaching in this program is that it doesn't really feel like an online program. And I think a lot of that comes down to, it starts with immersion, right? Because everybody goes to immersion and you're there, the class that's 1 year ahead of you is there. Alumni come to these things, industry partners come. We really get a chance to bond and get to know each other personally. And then that just carries over into the classroom with breakout rooms, working on team assignments. Honestly, by the end of it, I think it's always really sad when a class graduates because I feel like a bunch of my friends are leaving. So I think the best part about it is the connections that we make in this program are very intentional about making sure that you're doing this with a group of like-minded people and that you have that opportunity to form those really long-term friendships and colleagues that will benefit you for a long time. So that's my favorite thing. There's just, a very strong community, both with our current students and our alumni network that it brings a lot of warmth to my heart.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing how much the students, everybody gets to know everybody, but they also continue to kind of work together after they graduate. And that's something that is always been amazing to me, that you'll have people that will say, oh, I'm looking for someone to hire at my company. And let me go back to people that I went to grad school with and get them to come to work for me. So that's something that is a really rewarding part of the program as well, to see that community built and those individuals, really connect. Let's see. With that, we've been going through some preloaded questions here, but I think we've got some questions in the Q&A. Sam, do we have some things that people want to ask?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you some questions that we got from our social media. And if anyone who is attending live has questions, feel free to pop those in the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom screen. The first question we got was, for students returning to math or coding after several years, or if I only know one language, like, so for example, Python or R, what prep work would you recommend doing ahead of the program?
So on so let me take the math part of that to begin with. And if it's been a while, don't feel like you're alone. For most of our students coming into the program, it's been a few years since they were in a college classroom, and it's maybe even been longer since they've taken a math course. And that's okay. We're aware of that, and that's something that we are expecting. In terms of preparing, there are a few things you can do. You can brush up on those calculus skills. If you would like, we have that fully online calculus refresher that students can go through, and we can tell you more about that. We also would recommend just going back and making sure you have an idea as to the basics of calculus. So if you don't go through that refresher course, at least go back and maybe brush up on that a little bit. And then on the programming side, Chris, you teach the introductory programming course, so I'll let you talk about knowing different languages.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. If you have any experience with any language, then you're already going to have a really good head start. So it doesn't really matter which language you know. In fact, our program is intentionally designed to cause you to sort of become language agnostic. So we both do R and Python, and we weave that in throughout various courses. So by the end of this, you'll be multilingual. I mean, the principles that you're going to learn sort of are going to apply regardless of which programming language that you use. And so we do want you to be able to weigh the difference between Python and R and other things like that. So you can really evaluate what's the value here? What am I getting when I use Python versus R? How is this helpful to me? And, how are these different or the same? It's going to help you to navigate what's basically an always changing landscape. So you don't need to know any one particular language. We're going to make sure that you learn how to learn different programming languages. So that's the big thing. With that, if you do feel anxious about it and you want to try to get ahead, the best thing that I think I can recommend that you do is you just think about the basics. Do I understand what a loop is? Do I understand what a conditional statement is? Some of the very fundamental concepts in computer science, right? How does code run? Those kinds of things. That's where I would start. We will really walk you through everything that you need to know to become a very, very strong programmer. So I would definitely emphasize, if you're feeling weak on either of those two things, I would spend that time on preparing for calculus. I will definitely make sure you get where you need to go in the program with your programming side.
Roger, could I add something about the
Yeah,
math?
please, Alan. Yeah.
So I would say that, well, I'll echo what Chris said. If you haven't used calculus in 5, 10, 20 years, that's pretty much the experience of the majority of the students in the program. And the second thing that I wanted to add was, don't worry about having all these abstract mathematical conversations. That's not what we do. If we go to explaining something using calculus and linear algebra, it's because there's a real reason to do so, a practical application that will help you understand the material better. We're not doing mathematical theory for the sake of theory. This is all so you know real world stuff better. And I think what, at least for myself, if there's a practical, concrete reason to do it, then learning the theory is much more palatable.
Yeah, and that's one of the key things is that we really do have a program that's built to teach you what you need to know to actually apply things, and it is less on the theory side and much more on the how do you actually use these things in the real world settings. Yeah. Sam, do we have additional questions?
Yep. How are industry partners selected for the data science capstone project?
Oh, great question. So it is a process that we go through where we work with our corporate partners, and we send out a request for proposals to our partners. They send in some ideas that they have, and then we take a look at what the different kinds of projects are. We want a variety of projects, so we don't want everybody to be doing exactly the same thing. So we might have some natural language processing. We might have some a modeling that is kind of different. We might have an optimization kind of problem. And we really do try to get a variety of different types of applications, as well as getting a variety of different types of clients. So we want to make sure that they really do have that our students have an experience that really shows them kind of what are the range of different things that they could be doing. Most of our students have a job coming into the program and maybe they're working full time while they're here. But if you're thinking about the next step in your career, you might want to think, do I want to go to work in, a big tech company or maybe a smaller company or something like that? Do I want to go to work at a startup? understanding kind of what data science looks like at those different places is part of our goal. And that's one of the things that we try to do in bringing in our clients. Alan or Chris, you guys have been working with me on the capstone for a long time. Any other things you'd like to add about our clients or the kinds of projects we get?
Yeah, I'll go. So, I mean, first and foremost, we want to make sure that the question of interest from the client is interesting and something that students are going to get excited to solve. And so we try to find that. Sometimes that comes from a big brand that's very recognizable, and sometimes it comes from someone who's just trying to make a difference in the world. Right? It could be a children's hospital, right? Or it could be a brand that everyone's going to recognize. These are real projects. We sign confidentiality agreements. There's, legal stuff that has to happen to make sure that we can really work on the data as if we were consulting partners working for that client. It's an amazing opportunity to test not only your data science skills, but your storytelling skills, your ability to look at the ethics of a problem and advise people on how to navigate those kind of complex questions. It really does bring all of the different components of the program together in one spot. So when we are evaluating a project, we're looking at how does this project fit in? Does it have all of those various components? We're trying to get great projects with great clients that are just flat out interesting and fun to work on. And so we find those through the Notre Dame network and through our contacts, since all of us have industry experience in some way. So that is primarily the goal there.
Yeah. Sam, back to
Yeah.
other questions.
So while you were both answering that, you both mentioned ethics and storytelling. So I was wondering if you could really quickly do a sidebar and talk about our ethics and storytelling courses, because those kind of veer from the traditional mathematical and programming courses.
Yeah, so we have, as Sam said, a typical technical kind of program, but we also weave into that the storytelling and the ethics side. And this is because our industry partners have said, this is important. And it's actually vital that you be able to not just come up with a technical solution, but you can communicate that to the decision makers who are going to use it. So it doesn't help to create a great model and be able to build a neural network that has, 500 billion nodes or something like that if the decision makers can't actually make use of it. So storytelling is vital. We have a storytelling class in the summer semester of the program, and that in there you learn a lot of ways to get ideas across at different audiences. So you have technical audiences and non-technical audiences, and how to get across ideas to them is challenging. And it's one of the things that when we get into our capstone course, we build on that. So in working with their clients, our students have to find out, what do they really want to know from this data? What is the question of interest? What is the thing that they are really trying to get to? And then how do you get the idea back to them? And how do you negotiate all the different communication opportunities in between? And then along with that, we have to think about not only what can we do with the data, but what should we do? And that's where the ethical side comes in. And it's not just a single class that we do in this. We actually try to weave ethics into all of our classes. So in our machine learning classes, we talk about how data can be biased as we use it to train a model. We talk about how models can be misrepresentative and so forth. And then in the capstone class, we continue to use that. And maybe I'll throw that back to my colleagues. Do you guys want to say how we deal with the ethical side in our capstone?
Yeah, I mean, effectively, as you work through these processes and policies, you start to be able to develop a framework of ways in which you can tackle and approach them. And our students develop those in those courses, and both in the storytelling class and in the ethics class. You start to develop basically frameworks, procedures that you can really implement when you go into your workplace. That's one of those things that we see happen a lot. Is someone's, oh wow, I took this and I went ahead and used that in my workplace. But being able to learn the theory, understand why it works, understand how you can do it better, and then actually take your own output, your own documents that you've created, and then apply them in the capstone project is very rewarding. So it's great to see that come to fruition, and then for you to see how that is received by real clients, right? Who might have different motivations and different kinds of tricky situations that you're going to have to field. How do you handle that? So yeah, it's just definitely core to what we're doing. And I would absolutely say when we go to our alumni panels, when people come back from corporations and they're speaking, one of the top skills they say of all the things we learned, you'd think it'd be like modeling or programming, it's storytelling. They're always like, storytelling was phenomenal, continue to do that. So that's a huge investment in yourself and your career, because if you can tell the story well and you can model well, that's going to give you much more upward mobility in your organization.
Sam, other questions? Was there more to that?
Yeah. So are the courses the full 16-week semester length courses?
Oh, great question. There's actually a little bit of variety here. Most of the semesters, the courses are the full 16 weeks, but there are a couple of examples where that's not the case. So we do split our R and Python courses into 2 8-week sessions. We also have the summer semester where that's a course that's 10 weeks long for the data architectures course. And then also the summer semester, it's split into 2 5-week courses. So that happens as well. And then we also have a data visualization course that's just 4 weeks of the semester in the fall of the final year.
I will also say, to kind of go off of that, you will never be taking more than 2 courses at the same time. So while one course may run the full semester and then you'll have, the 7 weeks and 7 weeks, you will only be taking 2 at a time. So just as an example, your first semester, you'll be taking probability and statistics, all 14 weeks. And then for the first 7 weeks, you'll take R with Chris. And then for the second 7 weeks, you'll take Python with Chris. So it doesn't get overwhelming or you can't balance it with your job and other commitments as well.
And I'll also jump in. The R and Python courses are really like almost like going to feel like one course to you. They're technically 2 separate courses per how grades are distributed, but since I'm teaching them both back to back, it's going to feel like a continuous course in programming across the whole way through. And these courses are not really run in isolation, right? We're very aware of what's happening in our R and our Python programs at the same time happening to you in probability and statistics. And we work really hard to balance the workload between those courses. And even in some cases, we can do things like a joint project between the 2 classes where you can really leverage what you've learned in both classes to do something cool. So we're trying to be as intentional as we can about your learning experience.
Right. The next question is, how rigorous is the admissions process? My current job gained me about 3 years of experience working with data, but my GPA is not the best.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of admissions, the admissions committee looks at the entire packet. It's not just, oh, you've got, a transcript and that's the only thing we look at. We are looking for people that can succeed in the program. And that means that we want people that have some drive and ambition, because it's going to be some hard work to, succeed in graduate school. We also look for people that have some preparation that's going to help them in the classes. So again, having that calculus background is something that we look for. But if you have, a few low grades in your coursework, that's not something that's going to necessarily disqualify you. It's something that if we see that and we see that, oh, you also have been working and you've done, some interesting things in the field, that can actually be more impactful than just your grades that you've got. So again, it's not just one aspect of the person. We are looking at everything. So we look at what do your recommenders say about you? What's in your personal statement? What kind of background, what was your career path? And again, if you are someone who's working hard to get somewhere and you are really, show that drive and ambition, then a few grades are not going to make a difference.
I will also note that the GRE is not required for this program. That's a question we get a lot too. And that wasn't directly in the question, but I just want to make sure to mention that as well. The next question is, does this program talk about AI?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question, because AI, it's kind of everywhere now, right? So it's something that has really burst into the vocabulary of the world, and everybody's talking about it. We've really been doing AI since the 1950s. Well, not us personally, but it's been done, and it's something that is not really that new to us, but it is something that really is something we think about a lot. So, Chris, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things you do and some of the ways that we incorporate AI into the program?
Yeah, first of all, our curriculum is always evolving and changing. And so, for example, we want to make sure that what people are asking, what industry is asking for about what does that mean for AI today. So really, we're talking about large language models. We're talking about understanding, AI engineering, the ethics of how we can work with these models, all of those kinds of things. So that kind of content is for sure happening in our courses. We want to make sure that you see that kind of work, in the languages where they're relevant, especially as well. So absolutely, we talk about AI. You'll have hands-on opportunities with AI. We do special topics at immersion about AI. That's probably been one of the top requested immersion sessions that we've had. It's just, AI. We do AI workshops there, all kinds of things. So we are absolutely dedicated to making sure that you come out of this program feeling very confident about your ability to work with AI, but not just work with it, really understand the impact of it, when you want to apply it, when do you want to do something that's a little bit more classical, what the trade-offs are between those, and how they work. So it's definitely ingrained in what we do. And as Roger said, that's part of, really is part of data science. So of course.
And it's, one of the things that people often underestimate is that, when we teach the basics of how AI is built, and we teach the machine learning that's underneath these large language models that everyone, talks about, it really does help people understand what are the weaknesses, what are the strengths, what is it really doing? One of the things that we often say amongst ourselves is, AI, even though it's called artificial intelligence, it's not intelligent. It doesn't, know stuff. It is a probabilistic model that is building words and things like that, or building images. And it's not always going to get the answer correct. And understanding how it works and what kind of things go into it can really help you to understand where it's useful and where it's not. There's a lot of really good applications for AI and in our society today, and a lot of really great tools coming out, but they're not the only solutions, as Chris mentioned. Yeah.
Right. The next question is, does the program have any emphasis on deploying machine learning models into production?
That
Great
one.
question. Chris, yeah.
We definitely cover that in our databases and data architectures class. So in that class, we sort of go from the beginnings of time where, how did we store data and use data all the way through data lakes and delta lakes. And then we get into ML ops and we talk about that. And we talk about different ways that we can run experiments using those kinds of tools and how we can deploy models. And so the short answer to that is yes. It's definitely an area of focus, because if you're going to build models, you need to think about how is this model going to be used, right? And how do I monitor that? Because if I build a model once and it's used all the time and the underlying data and the distributions are changing, right, we need to evaluate if drift has occurred. So we really want to put an emphasis on thinking critically about how the model's intended to be used. And that's going to impact a lot about what we do. Is this just a one-shot analysis, or is this something that runs in perpetuity? So the short answer is yes. And you'll get to use some of those tools that are used in industry to do that.
And I'll add to that. And one of the things I guess we haven't really talked much about are our immersion weekends. Our immersion weekends are an opportunity to come together physically in person, and we get people together either here at Notre Dame or at a remote location. And one of the things we do there is we bring in speakers from our industry partners who come in and talk about how they do some of these things. So one of the things that we often do is bring in experts who are actually doing a lot of deployment of machine learning models. And they come in and talk about, here's the process we go through at my company to make this happen.
Yes.
And that's another aspect of the experience that we think is important, is getting a perspective that, there's not just one way to do this stuff. And, what we teach in the classroom is, one piece of it, but making it happen in the real world can sometimes have a lot of twists and nuances to it. Yeah. Other questions, Sam? Do we have other things?
Yeah. Do faculty offer office hours if students need more help?
Yes.
Yes, in short. But Alan, I don't know if you want to. How do you handle office hours in your classes? You teach some.
I handle it by being very, very flexible by appointment. And so in the past, people have used that just to schedule meetings here and there, or people have scheduled recurring weekly meetings that we just talk. And it's not always about needing help with homework. It's sometimes just to discuss their understanding of the material, which is valuable. People have different schedules. They're in different parts of the country. So having standing office hours, usually just people aren't there, at least from my experience. So I handle office hours by being very, very flexible for student scheduling at their convenience.
Yeah, same. Really, you can just go to my calendar and book me, and that's how you get office hours. Right, and then we can negotiate what time works well for both of us. So, and to Alan's point, I have the same thing happen for some students. Like, for example, in the beginning, there's often a few students who really feel uncomfortable with programming and they want to meet regularly, right? And they just need additional time. And so we do that. So we'll meet regularly outside of class. I have other people who crazily enough, come to office hours to work on problems that they're trying to solve at their work with material that we learned in class. So that's another thing that happens where they're like, hey, I have this really great thing I'm trying to do in my office. Can you help me with that? I'm trying to apply this. So any and all of the above, we're here to support you and make sure your career is a success. So,
and one of the things I guess I'll highlight on that is that a lot of times those meetings are happening after what we would think of as business hours. We're doing these in the evening simply because most people, as Alan said, have, a full-time day job and are doing this, after work. And that's one of the things that we recognize, and that we are flexible, and we're willing to meet with you on a Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock or something because of that. Yeah.
I'll also note that another resource for students are your fellow classmates. So the students in the class have from a wide variety of backgrounds, industries, and experience. So it gives you the opportunity to see things from a different perspective. A lot of people may be an expert on one thing, but not the other. And that really gives you an opportunity to get to know your classmates. Most all of our classes have had like a G chat or a WhatsApp group that they talk and they'll meet with each other, or if someone's struggling on a problem or a concept, they'll really help each other out. So I think that's another really big benefit of the program, because there's just so many different perspectives and things to learn.
yeah, I just want to echo that. That's absolutely true. And I'm sure you see the same thing, Alan, in your class. We have people who have extensive math grounds. We've had people who have been programming for 20 or 30 years. Right. So the range of skills for your classmates is going to be really high, and the camaraderie and the collaboration that starts to happen is amazing. So you're not really going to just be learning from us. You will be learning from your peers as well. That absolutely happens, and it's awesome to watch.
The next question is, via the website, it states that this program includes both live and asynchronous sessions. Can you explain more about the class format, especially regarding the live sessions and times?
Yeah, I don't know, Alan, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So first of all, the asynchronous material is the part that you do on your own. So that consists of videos, self-check questions on the videos, and then homework assignments, and maybe some other readings and things like that. Regarding the videos, I really want to emphasize that we're not simply recording lectures. I've seen things like that on YouTube, whatever. That's not cool. I mean, these videos are produced especially for online learning. They are creative, they are engaging, and of course, I mean, that's self-aggrandizing because I made some of them too. But all of us in the program have put our creativity and expertise and passion into these videos. So that's the asynchronous material. And then the synchronous material, the live session, is once a week for 90 minutes. And my usual format is that I have a full example, a new full example of the things you learn that week in asynchronous, just for reinforcement and to allow students more opportunities to ask questions. And then the second part of the class would be some advanced topic that was not covered in the asynchronous videos, such as simulation, computation, and things like that. And once in a while, we have things like guest speakers and so on. But at least for me, it's a balance between answering questions and making sure you get the material for that week, and then pushing further into new skills.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, one of the things we try to do is during those synchronous times, give you things that you can do with your classmates and really get, the value of doing things together. So, what makes sense to do as a group. And for that, there are lots of different aspects of the material. We can say, all right, let's try out, how do we break this model that we've just figured out how to build? How do we, see where things might fail? And that's a big part of what we do during that synchronous content, is to kind of explore the limits of the things that we've been learning in the asynchronous material. Yeah.
To answer the second part of that question, I can do that. So the live session schedule is live session classes are on Mondays and Thursdays, and there's two different options. On Monday, you could either go from 7 to 8:30 p.m. or 9 to 10:30 p.m., and that would be the same on Thursday. We call it the East and West cohort. However, I have students who live on the West Coast that attend the East session and vice versa, based on whatever's going on in their life. All of my students in Atlanta told me they could never possibly be home by 7 p.m. because of traffic. So most of them are in the West cohort, but it just depends on, what you're doing. And I will say this for live sessions as well. It is very unlikely that you will make it through 21 months of class without having to miss a session or switch a session, or if you have work travel, you get sick, your kids have a recital, whatever it may be. So as long as you communicate that in advance, we'll work with you. All of our live sessions are recorded. So even if, you've had a really long day at work, you come into class at 7, you get out of class at 8:30 and you're like, I wasn't fully there. I really would love to go back and revisit these concepts. You can go back and watch the recording. You can search key terms. So maybe you missed one specific section that you want to revisit. So there's a lot of flexibility based on whatever is going on in your life at that specific time. Because we know as working professionals, no 2 weeks look the same sometimes.
And I'm just going to also highlight something that Alan mentioned in the asynchronous material. The asynchronous material is material that was designed specifically for this program. It's not just repackaged content from an on-campus course. And we actually employ a full-time learning designer who works with the faculty and helps to educate us on best ways to get things across in an online setting. So our learning designer will work with us and say, maybe you could try this for an assessment. Maybe you can try, instead of, just a video, maybe we build an interactive that allows you to play around with concepts and things like that. And that's one of the things that is a little different about our asynchronous material. It's not just recorded content. It also includes, other aspects as well. Yeah. Other questions we've got there, Sam?
Yeah, so this next one's a 2-part question. I'm actually going to answer the second part first.
Okay.
So the second part of the question is, for online students, are there traditional ways they can engage with Notre Dame's Catholic roots and values? I work, like I said, in student services, so I could talk a little bit about this. There are a lot of resources that you have access to as an online student that can connect you to the Catholic mission of the university. The Basilica masses are live streamed every week. There's a lot of online prayer resources, meditations. Notre Dame offers subscriptions to the Hollow app and Calm, and both of those have different options for you. And there's a whole website that we will give you access to and list out the services so that you can see those resources.
And you said there was another part to that question.
Yes. So the first part is, does the program address issues of AI and data ethics from a Catholic perspective?
Oh, great question. And ethics is a huge topic, right? And there are many aspects to it. So Catholic social teaching does come in as one of the roots for kind of a lens to go through to look at the ethical side of this. So is it the dominant way that we look at it? Probably not. But is it definitely one of the lenses that we use? Yes.
I can add to that as well. This topic is like huge right now on campus. And so one of the things you'll find when you're an enrolled student is that there are, I mean, in fact, there's a webinar right now that I'm not going to because on these topics that where we have people who are actively thinking about this and researching, giving talks, and almost a lot of those are going to be available online to Zoom, so you can go to the calendar and see what they are. But there are just so many really, really smart people who are committed to thinking about the impact of AI and Catholicism and how those can work together. And this is a great place to sort of get engaged with that. And if it's a topic that you're really interested in, that's an area where I know Roger, myself, Alan, we're happy also to connect you with people who are doing cutting edge research in that field. In fact, some of our former students are now in roles where the research they're doing with large language models and various religious texts is quite astonishing. So if that's something that you're interested in, we can absolutely connect you with that. There's a lot of great stuff happening, and happy to connect you there.
Yeah. And fundamentally, the university has a mission to be a positive force in society. And AI and data science have a big impact on society. And one of the reasons why this program was created was to make sure that we could help to educate people on ways to make sure that data science is used in a positive way. Other questions that we've got, Sam?
Yeah. Are there career resources available?
Yes. So we have a dedicated career consultant who is tasked with working with all of our students. And she gets to know basically everybody and tries to find out, what is the next step the person is looking for in their career and help them to get there. In addition to those, we also have a lot of other resources that the university provides, and those include connections to the Notre Dame network. So you get to have resources like Irish Compass that allow you to, talk to other individuals who are either, part of the university community as an alum or as a faculty member or as another student. And you can actually, get out there and say, oh, I'd like to find a job in this sector, or I'd like to talk to someone who works at this company. And we can often make those connections. The graduate career services consultant is really there for life. So they are someone who is available even after you graduate. So you may not be thinking, hey, I'm ready to make a job switch right now while you're in the program. But then after you graduate, or even 5 years later, you might be thinking, hey, I need to brush up my resume, or think about how I would interview for this job. And that consultant can help with that.
Yeah, I would say there's a couple other things. There's our alumni clubs, there's going to be an alumni club in every city, and that's not specific to data science. That's just specific to Notre Dame. If you go somewhere and you're wearing your Notre Dame shirt, people are going to say, "Oh, wow, you went to Notre Dame." You're immediately going to have connections with people all over the place. So, so yes, alumni clubs in every major city. But another big source of opportunity for you is actually our alumni from this program, because they're highly engaged. We are constantly having alumni panels where alumni come back and talk about, how do I get a job in the career? What kind of opportunities are out there? Our data science masters alumni are highly engaged and absolutely are wanting to collaborate with all of our current students. So that's a huge resource as well. In addition to the ones that obviously Roger said that are officially supported by the university, all of the alumni are a huge resource.
Other questions?
The question is, in the event if any credits were missed, what are the options to make it up? And I'm not sure if they mean live sessions or course credits. So maybe we can answer both of those.
Yeah, so if there's, if something comes up and you are not able to make a class, or if you, can't get a homework in on time or something like that, this program is for working professionals. So we understand that, things come up. You have a big project at work, or you have, your family member gets sick, something like that. That happens. And we are prepared for that, and we will work with you. So we will adjust a deadline, or we will find a way to make that up. So if you miss a live session, typically we will have some type of makeup assignment you can do instead, where you watch the recorded video, but you also maybe do some additional programming or something like that to get an idea as to what was going on. And then Sam, was there another aspect to that you wanted to that we were? I think missing credits, that is something that again is something we are prepared to work with you on. If something comes up, we are expecting that. Oh, you're muted there, Sam.
If anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. But in the interim, for all three of you, what is one piece of advice you would give anybody looking to apply for the program? If maybe they're nervous, it's been a long time, there's a lot going on, what would be your one piece of advice?
Yeah, I don't know who wants to start with that. Alan, do you want to start with that one?
I would say if you're apprehensive, then I think that's going on with everyone in the program. And then other than that, I would say just get excited about data science.
Yeah.
I would say I'm going to kind of key on what Alan says. Everybody has a little bit of imposter syndrome. Don't. Right? We want a diverse group of people. We want people who have really interesting backgrounds. We have students who have incredible backgrounds. People who have been doctors who are now going back to be data scientists, right? Military veterans, teachers across the board. We're interested in people who recognize the impact that data science can have. And if you're someone who is that, but you're worried that your math isn't good enough, or your grades aren't good enough, or you're scared about programming, and you feel like maybe you're going to be an imposter and other people are going to be better than you, don't do that. Everyone is feeling the same way. So everyone here, it's a very supportive environment where we're going to encourage you to be great. And that's going to come. So if you have imposter syndrome, just do it, just apply.
Yeah, and I will echo all of that and just say, if you're thinking about applying, tell us who you are and what you're trying to do, and that actually goes a long way. Take a little time and actually spend some time with that personal statement and explain, this is my journey, and this is what I'm trying to do, and that actually can really help you with the admissions committee, because again, as I mentioned earlier, a few grades here and there are not going to make a huge difference, but actually having a clear picture as to why you want to be in this program and helping us to see that's something that can be very useful in the admissions committee, and you get people saying, oh yeah, this person seems like they really want to be here, and And this is somebody that we really would like to have as part of the program.
All
Were
right.
there other questions, Sam, before we wrap up too?
We've got one final question, and I actually think it goes perfectly with the last question. How much does previous internship experience in software engineering, especially with machine learning terms, along with an incoming new grad role at top tech companies, weigh in graduate admissions? Would gaining a few years of industry experience help compensate for a lower GPA?
Yes, in short, yes. The admissions committee looks at the entire portfolio, and we do try to understand, your trajectory, and if had a time where you really excelled, that can make up for times where maybe you didn't, and that can really help out in terms of the application prospects.
And I would say if you're interested in seeing, like if you send your resume to the email that's on the screen right now, we're happy to take a look at it and say, hey, we've, give recommendations like, hey, we think you have enough experience. This is what we usually look for. Because like Roger, Chris, and Alan said, there's a lot of imposter syndrome, and sometimes prospective students think that they are not qualified, and they certainly are. So definitely reach out to us. We're happy to help. We're here to answer any questions you have and help you on this journey.
Yeah, we get it. We want to help you apply.
Yeah, and that's largely because we want this program to be a very personal program, not one that is, you're one student among thousands or something like that. We want to know everybody that is in this program. We want to get to know the students, and we want them to really connect with our community, the Notre Dame community, and also the data science community within it. And that starts even before you apply. So if you do have questions, reach out to us. And along with that, on the screen now, you'll see all the different ways you can connect with us. So whatever works best for you, send us an email, send us a text, reach out to our social media. And again, we are more than happy to answer your questions and talk with you about the process. To my fellow faculty here, thank you for being with us today. It's been a pleasure talking with you. To the audience, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I know that as soon as we get off this call, you'll probably realize, oh, I should have asked about that. Connect with us. Send us an email, send us a text, and we'll be glad to help you with that. With that, I think we're probably close to the end of our time slot. So Sam, thank you for running the Q&A. And again, thanks everyone for being on the call.
My pleasure. Thank you.